reviews Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022. And I'm joined by Chris.
Hello.
What's going on, Chris? Gonna be joining me on these new film reviews permanently going forward.
We talk shit about all these movies on the side anyway. Might as well, put it out here for other people to hear.
Yeah. We talked about Scream last month, so the big movie of this month, horror film, is the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now, where do you stand with the series as a whole? Are you a big fan? Do you hate it?
No, I don't hate. I could never hate the Texas Chainsaw Massacre series. I will say I have a fondness more for some of the later entries than I do. I love the original, but I have just a different kind of fondness for like the Next Generation and how wacky it is.
Yeah.
And the two remakes from the early 2000s, which were really, really well done remakes, I feel. But yeah, I love the series. It's just, I know you personally, you have a huge affinity for the original, which everybody, there's nothing wrong with it. But for me personally, I like some of the later entries a little bit better.
Yeah, I've noticed a lot of people, there's people that love the remake more than the original, which always blows my mind.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know that I'd say it. It's subjective anyway to say what's better than one or the other. So, that's what we're here doing, just dropping opinions. So it doesn't make a difference. Yeah. But I like the. There's a lot of aspects in the remake that I do like more than the original. But the original's the original for a reason.
Yeah, when it comes to the series as a whole, for me, I always feel like nothing will ever top the OG version, the original film. I don't hate the remake. I think the remake is a well-produced film. It looks good. It's well-acted. There's a lot of iconic stuff in that movie. Even to this day, people, remember certain things about that movie more so than the original. As far as the actual sequels go that are supposed to be connected, because much like Halloween, this series has 50 reboots and timelines.
Keeping track of the timelines is
50
a task.
Titles that are there's 50 movies all titled The Texas Chainsaw Massacre or just Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I always feel like the film is kind of like waves, ups and downs. A lot of people love part 2 and part 3. There's people that hate the Next Generation. There's people that love the Next Generation. There's people that just love the remake. There's people that love the new one, 3D, and the one that just came out.
Yeah.
So I've always thought, I don't know, it's weird. I always felt like there's certain, I like the second one, I like the third one. There's parts of the Next Generation I like. There's some I've never even seen. I've never seen, what is it, The Beginning? The prequel
the prequel to the remake. Yeah, Texas Chainsaw The Beginning.
I've never seen that one, and I never
like
watched
that
Leatherface.
That one I've never seen. I've never seen that Leatherface. That was it was in that weird time where the horror genre was doing this weird, we're going to give you a lot of backstory about why this character is the way that they are. Hannibal Rising and even Bates Motel to a degree is that kind of concept. And sometimes that concept is unnecessary. And I felt like with that Leatherface one, I have no desire to ever watch that.
Yeah, the filmmakers are the guys that directed Inside, which is a great horror movie. So I'm curious. I should sit down one night and just kind of toss it on.
It's on Pluto TV quite often recently.
Yeah, I think I've seen a clip or two, and it doesn't look like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. I'm like, wait a second.
I think Steven Dorff is in it, if I'm not mistaken. I think he plays the sheriff in the movie.
Oh, is he? I gotta watch it.
And I want to say that they filmed it overseas in Bulgaria, which is where they filmed the newest one, the one that we're going to talk about. So I guess aesthetically it's kind of the same.
Yeah, but again, just to kind of finish my thought about the series as a whole, I always go back to the original, and I dabble in the rest. I wouldn't say I'm a huge fan of any of the sequels, or I wouldn't say I'm the biggest fan of all of them, but I can appreciate things about each one, and honestly, at the end of the day, you're watching these movies to see Leatherface saw people.
He's a fun
people.
Character. He's definitely an icon. He's up there with the rest of those characters, the Freddys, the Michael Myers. wasn't he like one of the first licensed characters in that Dead by Daylight series? Like that
he was,
the video game. One. Yeah, he was early on, right?
Second or third. Yeah, it was. I think Michael Myers was first, and then Leatherface shortly after.
Yeah.
But let's jump into the new one. Let's jump into 2022. We're gonna cover some spoilers, but before we go into the full kind of spoilers, let's talk a little bit about who's involved in this movie. Fede Alvarez, who directed the Evil Dead remake, which is another fucking great
movie with a chainsaw.
Yes. He produced this. I think he was involved in writing.
Yeah.
This one too. The director was David Blue Garcia, who I'll be honest, dude, I don't know much about.
Never heard of, yeah.
You know, Fede Alvarez as a filmmaker, though what he's been making, like Don't Breathe's a great movie, and he had I think the sequel to one of the girl with the dragon tattoo, like the second one,
right.
He directed that one. Good film, you know, and obviously, again, like I said, Evil Dead. So he's a pretty competent filmmaker, and he's making good shit. You know what I'm saying? So I thought he was the director of this originally. So I was hyped before that, but then when I saw he just produced, that really doesn't mean jack shit. At the end of the day, if you just produced the film, you know, you gave some input, but he didn't
right. He's probably got a bit of creative input, yeah. But I mean, I will say, for a guy that, you know, I can say I've never heard of this director prior to this movie. I don't know that this is his first film, but I mean, for a lot of people, this is going to be their first exposure to this guy as a director, and I think it's a pretty solid, I guess you could call it a debut for this guy. It's a good directorial debut.
Yeah, it's a pretty movie. Before we go into it, let's give one more spoiler warning since this is a new movie. Spoiler warning. Let's jump into Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022.
So Harlow is a ghost town.
We have a vision for this place. All it needs is young blood.
I don't want to live here. This is a chance for people to start fresh somewhere safe.
Hey guys, you should see this.
What are you doing in our house? You really shouldn't be here.
Oh my God.
This is Hardesty.
Sally, I'm afraid your old friend's back.
50 years I've been waiting for this night. Just to see him again.
Who?
Leatherface. Looks like it's you that he wants.
I'm not gonna let him kill you.
Fear no evil. Fear no evil.
Try anything and you're canceled, bro.
Oh, fuck. All right, dude. So let's dive into the plot first. What did you think of the whole Gen Z millennial group of? I guess they're supposed to be cooks. That's what I like. Chefs, right?
Yeah, they have these big ambitions for a town that they have no business being in, which, you know, is a pretty standard story of, I guess, gentrification. That's pretty much the main theme of the movie is gentrification gone wrong. And I think for a lot of the discord around, you know, the people that are vehemently disliking this movie for whatever reason,
hating it. People that fucking hate
step
this
past
movie.
dislike. I think the thing is, like, they see reflections of themselves in these characters that are just shitty, and they're like, well, this is dumb. Why would you do this to people like this? Yeah. Well, I mean, if you take offense to it, then you're probably one of those kind of people. So yeah, you might not like what happens to these crummy kids who have no business being where they are. So, I mean, I think it's a fun plot. It's, you know, it's not Titanic, it's not Citizen Kane. There's not much to it. It's, you know, cannon fodder. You get a bunch of characters that are going to get cut up and killed. That's what you're watching this movie for.
And these are supposed to be Gen Z, not millennial, right?
Younger than us, for sure,
because we're millennials. So I'm guessing they're supposed to be like 22, 23 is kind of the vibe I got.
Yeah, early to mid, I'd say.
And you know, early on, you know, the character, I believe her name was Melody. She's anti-gun.
Yes, yeah.
And Leela, the younger sister, survived a mass like school shooting, right?
Shooting,
I think it's
yeah.
kind of
a couple of weird like character flashbacks of her surviving it, kind of peppered in there. Which, you know, as we go on, we'll talk about more of just the runtime in general. It's a tight 81-minute movie,
short,
and I feel like they kind of crammed a little too many ideas and didn't flesh them out quite enough.
Yeah.
And I think you'll agree with that. So I think that the school shooting flashbacks was kind of one of those half-baked ideas.
And it's only sprinkled in. I think those flashbacks, and they're really brief, but they're a couple of seconds here and there where you see her laying on the floor with her phone next to her or something.
The aftermath of a school shooting. You're not seeing the school shooting.
No. Which honestly, I think this movie would have benefited from maybe showing a little bit of that. Maybe would have made you care more for her.
Right.
As far as the plot goes, though, I did enjoy them taking over this town. What is it? Harlow, I think is the name of it. I have it in my notes here. Harlow is the name of the town. And the whole deal with them getting everyone's, what is it, lease or contract or deed to their property.
Deeds to the homes,
Yeah. And how this woman became the caregiver of Leatherface somehow. That's also never explained.
Yeah.
And how they dick her over with basically kicking her the fuck out of her property, her orphanage, and then she dies because she's sick. We don't really ever know what she's sick from.
Yeah, she's just a sick old lady. Yeah, played by Alice Krieg, the Borg queen from Star Trek in the 90s.
Dude, I didn't realize that. Now I'm like, oh shit, you're right. That's who that was. Oh shit, that's amazing. I didn't hate it. Like there was that whole scene where they're bidding property and they're talking about food trucks, and there's like this group of people that come into the town on a big party bus. And they're all obnoxious. They're basically there to be killed. It's blatant. The movie is not hiding the fact that they're supposed to be
like I said,
slaughtered
fodder,
and completely just obliterated by Leatherface. I didn't hate it though. I thought it was a decent setup. Could it have been explored a little more? Of course, you know, a little bit more. I feel like the movie could have used maybe 5 to 10 more minutes of those 4 characters driving to Harlow just to flesh them out a bit, because that's been such a prominent part of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre series.
Absolutely, yeah. There's always that opening that is kind of lulls you into a false sense of security. It's like an idealistic road trip kind of vibe for the most part. That's really missing from this film in a lot of ways.
Which is weird because they followed that trope in all the other movies for the most part. Like you follow this group, you know, I think in the remake they're going to a Lynyrd Skynyrd concert.
Yeah, right.
In the original they're going to, I think, just visit her family or see where she was raised, Sally and her brother, Franklin. And then even in 3D, Texas Chainsaw 3D, they're going because her grandmother passed away and she inherited some property, but you get to hang out with them. They stop at gas stations. They're talking shit. There's none of that in this movie.
They do that, but it's so brief. It's so brief that it doesn't matter.
2 minutes, a minute or two is all you
I'll tell you the first friend that is killed in the group, the blonde girl, I don't even know what the hell her name is.
Yeah. It's kind of a drag that they like. Yeah, there's that scene. I think they go to a grocery store too, but it feels so much shorter when comparing it to the other films.
Yeah,
how much more time you spent with the characters? Maybe I'm wrong, but
no, I agree.
I feel like it was like super abrupt. It just happens, and they're there, and they're driving from Austin to
this tiny
Harlow,
bit of exposition, and then that's it.
Let's jump into the characters. And speaking of characters, the main big man himself, Leatherface, I thought he was this actor. I thought he did a good job. I believe that's the same Leatherface from 1974, I believe, is the original.
Yeah, almost
He's
50
supposed
years,
to be in his 70s, so my man's a spry 70-year-old.
Takes care of himself.
He was running around, breaking dudes' arms and stabbing them with them and doing all kinds of wild shit. So I thought he was really well done. His build, it looked like Gunnar Hansen.
Yeah.
You know, aged up a bit, and I can appreciate that. The whole mask idea, him kind of being kept away and not murdering for 40 years or whatever, was a little iffy, that whole subplot. But, you know, and I did find it weird that the woman that he was taking care of, he used her face instead of using the girl, the blonde girl you talked about, because that feels more Leatherface than him using he would never use one of his own family members' faces. And I don't think he's ever done that in the franchise as a whole. So that was an odd choice.
Yeah, it seems kind of backwards in the sense that the only person that's taken care of him all this time, he's gonna defile her dead body in such a way, you know?
Yeah, I think it would have been cooler for him to just kill the blonde girl and use or one of the cops at least.
Right.
The blonde girl would have made more of an impact because that was their friend.
Right.
And,
which, you know, they've done that in other Texas Chainsaw Massacres.
Yeah.
Where, like in the remake, you know, Jessica Biel's boyfriend, she sees Leatherface wearing his face, and that's a great, you know, impact. That scene always stands out in my mind when I think about the remake, and there's not that kind of punch to it in this.
No, and it's funny because imagine if he would have shown up wearing her face, they would have been like, "Oh shit, she's dead." Like that's how you confirm the character is dead, and the other characters know that she's dead. I don't even think they ever question like, is she do they ever find out that the blonde girl died? I don't think so.
They you know, they get the text message from her that the old lady died,
and that was basically it.
That's kind of it.
What about Melody and Leela? Did you like them as the female leads, the final girls, kind of?
Yeah, they're fine. I mean, the younger sister, the Elsie Fisher is the actress that plays the younger sister.
Lila.
She's kind of more of the driving force for the movie, but I feel like she didn't necessarily have as much to do as her older sister. Like her older sister kind of gets a bit more of the cool set pieces of the movie.
Yeah,
whereas
I will say
it's kind of weird that she's story-wise more of the main character, but in the movie she does less, you know?
Yeah, I will say she has the most tense one of the most tense moments in the film when she's under the floorboards.
And that's a
Leatherface
great
has the
sequence.
chainsaw and he's fucking jamming it into the floor, and he does that really cool kind of like Jaws fin moment where the chainsaw is getting really close to her through the floorboard. That was really cool. And then into the pipe where all the shit falls on.
Oh, yeah, God.
Fucking gross. The
Poor
girl
actress.
fucking got all bloody and covered in shit, that character. That sucks. I didn't hate them. I thought they were okay. I didn't think they were that annoying. I'm seeing on Twitter and fucking Letterboxd that people hated these characters, and I mean, they weren't that bad.
They're horror movie characters. They're gonna make stupid decisions. That's what horror movie characters do.
Yeah,
to constantly apply real world ideas to horror movie characters, you know, you're nitpicking and you're going into it looking for something wrong.
Yeah,
then you're gonna have a bad time.
Yeah, I just didn't think they were that bad. Honestly, out of all the characters, and there's one more character I want to talk about here, I thought that the sisters were a good addition, and they were decent final girls.
Yeah.
You know, you were rooting for them in a sense, in a way. You know, I didn't think they were as fucking shitty as other people are saying, just because of them being Gen Z, which I do think was the point.
Right.
I don't think you were supposed to feel sympathy for any of these characters for the most part.
But I think those two, you're supposed to feel the most of your lack of sympathy for, you know, these two characters, because they're the least bad out of all of them. You know, even when the sister realizes that they essentially kicked this woman out of her house,
she feels bad.
Yeah, she feels terrible. She didn't do it the right way. Whereas, you know, the Dante character, he's like, oh well, you know, it's got to be here somewhere. It's here. We did it right, and he kind of brushes it aside, whereas the sisters are cognizant that they did something wrong in this instance, you know?
And I think, honestly, Melody, that actress, I forget her name, she was also in Happy Death Day, too.
Sarah Yarkin was that actress.
Great, dude.
Yeah.
She was crying, fucking boogers coming out of her nose. Like, she was acting, dude.
Yeah.
That's why when people, like, shit on the movie, I'm like, damn, dude, the girl was, like, she was doing her thing.
No, she was giving it her all.
It's not a shitty performance. And I think people are kind of brushing that over in the reviews and the toxicity that is Twitter. I think people are kind of just shitting on a performance that I don't think was that bad.
Twitter's a cesspool anyway.
Yeah. It's a necessary evil, unfortunately, especially for podcasters like us. One more character I want to touch on that's pretty vital, and I use that word loosely to this movie, is Sally Hardesty coming back. That character coming back. It's Marilyn Burns portrayed her in the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. She passed away a few years ago, so she obviously couldn't come back, and they got a new actress to portray her. I'm not too familiar with the actress that portrayed her either.
She's a French actress, I believe.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with her work. Similar to a lot of other things in this movie, I feel like that was the most undercooked idea. It was not. They didn't fully think that out. She's only in like 2 or 3 scenes before she shows up in Harlow to like kill Leatherface or confront Leatherface. Her performance wasn't bad. It just there wasn't much meat to it.
Right.
You know? There wasn't really much to it other than her kind of just showing up, having a shotgun, looking badass, which she was.
Yeah.
You know, she puts up a fight, but I feel like the movie could have used another 10 or 15 minutes with her in the script.
Right. Just to kind of see where she's been this whole time. How this, because we know as an audience that she's the only survivor of the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but we don't get to see really how it's affected her this whole time. You know, we get kind of little brushes of dialogue like, oh yeah, she became a cop or whatever to
a sheriff or something like that.
Yeah. Because she wanted to find him. All right, cool. Like, show us, her case files from the last 50 years. Give us like a 10-minute scene or 5-minute scene of her, her investigations over the years, how it hasn't panned out. Maybe she's frustrated by that. And this is finally the moment that she's been waiting for this whole time. And we just kind of get it glossed over in a
confront Leatherface.
Yeah, and like
my man Thanos is her. He's like, basically she's like, "Do you remember me?" And he's like, just walks away from her.
Yeah,
he's like, "I don't fucking know who you are."
Yeah, it's very, which I thought was kind of cool because it's like this thing was so important to her, but to him it was just whatever. You're just somebody that was in my way.
Yeah, he doesn't even he just walks away from her.
Yeah,
and the whole Sally Hardesty thing is basically a play on the Laurie Strode new Halloween franchise,
right?
The new films. I mean, they were trying to mimic that gold, I guess, and I'm using
very clearly.
I'm using that loosely, but like they were trying to mimic that with this film. But what I will say, the 2018 Halloween was able to flesh out Laurie Strode way more.
Right.
And their new characters sort of. I don't think they fleshed out all their new characters very well. But this Sally was not as fleshed out when comparing them. And I almost feel like she wasn't necessary to the film.
That's what I was going to say. With Laurie, she's central to the plot. Whereas Sally's thing is kind of tacked on as an afterthought to this plot because it's not tied to the kids coming to Harlow in any way, shape, or form.
At all. They don't know who the fuck she is. I think maybe they mentioned. I think she tells them in the back, which the scene where they're in the back seat of the car is literally looks just like the scene from the Halloween 2018.
Yeah.
Where Laurie Strode's granddaughter's in the back seat because Sally kind of goes crazy in that moment where she's kind of obsessed with killing Leatherface. Mm-hmm. But you could tell when you watch it, and I think I read this online, that they did some sort of rewrites or reshoots while filming this, and it feels like Sally was tacked on.
It wouldn't
into
surprise
the
me.
film because she's by herself for most of the early stuff. It's just her. And then she meets up with the girls at the very end. But her scene, either stick with Sally, I mean, as the main character, or the sisters. Like pick pick one.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what hurt the film the most, if their intentions were to make you care about these characters, which honestly, at the end of the day, dude, maybe that's not what they gave a shit about, was the character development. These characters are just there to get killed.
You're there to, watch a movie called Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You're just there to see people get massacred by a chainsaw at the end of the day, which, they delivered on that. I will say that much. You want to touch on the gore in this movie?
Yeah, let's talk about gore now. That's basically the main event.
There is some really, really good kills in this movie. I mean, there's the bus sequence, which everybody is kind of talking about, is really the main crust of the gore in this movie. Dude. Yeah, I mean, there's people getting sliced in half. There's dudes walking around missing arms and falling apart, and a literal river of blood flowing in the bus in that sequence.
It's a great scene,
one girl tries to escape, and she just gets drilled in half, and only the front half of her falls out of the bus. There's some really cool kills in that scene.
Dude, that scene is lit with blue light. It looks great.
I love it, yeah.
Contrasting that with the blood fucking splattering everywhere. And it's funny because I'm seeing online a lot of people are talking shit about the fucking one guy who's
opening
like,
to
canceled.
It, but
and I'm like, they're focusing way too much on that and not appreciating what happens a second after that. Where he's fucking, as a horror fan, or like if you love gory movies, dude, he fucking destroys like 50 people in this bus.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's easily got to be like 2 or 3 dozen people in that bus, and they all get mowed down, save the 2 sisters.
And it drives me crazy that people are so hung up on the guy just being like,
on
you
one
get
line
canceled,
of dialogue.
bro.
And you know what? It came out, that line came out in the trailer, and everybody was losing their shit over it in the trailer. Again, they're horror movie characters. This is what horror movie characters. They're not supposed to be these deep it's not winning any Oscars. They're not winning anything for writing or anything like that. Shut up and enjoy the ride.
Dude, and another gory scene was the mechanic dude that lives in Harlow that's gets his fucking head bashed in with a sledgehammer.
Absolutely,
it's like
bashed
his head was liquefied, basically. It was a watermelon smushed to the ground.
Yeah, and brutal. I mean, they don't pull away from it. They show it repeatedly. There's a cavern in his head after Leatherface is done with him, and it's a really cool scene. It just shows, and I think in movie, if you want to use the lore of the movie, it shows that if we're saying he hasn't done anything since the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, he's been hiding away. It shows that he's had this aggression and rage just kind of built up in him. And maybe he's a lot older now, but he hasn't unleashed the beast, Leatherface, so to speak. Yeah, the Leatherface in him, so to speak.
With the pent up frustration of not murdering someone for 40 years.
Right, that'll do it. You're going to cave some poor dude's head in, and that, to me, the gore in this movie was warranted. I've seen a lot of people saying that. I've seen a lot of people saying it doesn't fit with the original, but
dude,
that's the times have changed. That's the 70s to now. That's movies have to evolve. You can't. On the flip side of that, if the movie wasn't gory enough, people probably would have complained about that too. So you're not going to find any win there. So I appreciated the gore. I loved it.
That's what they're doing, though, in these movies, because Halloween 2018 was the same way. It's way gorier than the original Halloween.
You have to raise the stakes. You have to up it. Otherwise, why bother?
Yeah, that was the biggest highlight.
Yeah.
Of this movie was the gore. That was that's what everyone's gonna talk about. In a few years, I'm like, wow, that was a fucking gory ass movie. And I think that's what makes me laugh about these movies is people shit on them when they come out, and then in 5 years it's gonna have a cult following.
Yeah,
people are gonna
there's
be like,
a fondness.
It wasn't that bad when I first watched it. It sucked, but I'm kind of appreciating it now because of the gore and the absurd ending, which we'll get to in a sec. Like, I think people in the moment are over analyzing a fucking horror movie.
Right, that's exactly what I said. It's a horror
guy
movie.
who kills people. Like, it's not that fucking serious.
No,
like,
not at all.
Chill out, guys. But I also think people are way too hard on these movies.
Yeah.
Especially on some of these new, like, reboot requels slasher movies. Like, that's what the fuck they are, slasher movies. I can name 10 shitty slasher movies right now that there's something I appreciate in the, there's something in it I can appreciate.
You know what? Like, I guarantee in the 90s and the 80s, there were people sitting around saying the same thing about the ones that came out during that. Exactly.
I vividly remember in the early 2000s. Like, I remember when I was getting into like Lucio Fulci movies and like really a Cannibal Holocaust and shit like that. I remember like the Gore hounds and the old school horror fans shitting on Scream so much. Like, Scream sucks. Scream's shitty. It's not bloody. It's stupid. It's blah, blah, blah. And now, dude, people love the franchise.
It's a classic. Look at it now. Exactly.
Fucking people, horror fans are weird sometimes.
Times will change. But wait, you said the ending, right?
Yeah, let's get into the ending.
I absolutely want to talk about the ending.
Dude, listen. So at the end of the movie, Melody and Leela are in the car. It's a Tesla, I think, that has self-driving, right?
Yes, it's a fucking Tesla.
It's pulling away, and Leatherface, obviously, I knew he wasn't dead.
Right, they're getting away. Oh my gosh, they're going to get away.
And Leatherface breaks through the passenger side window and grabs Melody, pulls her from the car, cuts her fucking head off while Leela watches screaming from the sunroof. Yeah, dude, it's like basically recreating the ending of the original, but stepping it up a notch and making it way more fucking grim. Honestly, dude, it's a like mean-spirited ending. Yeah. When you think about it, it's not a happy ending. Like, yeah, they got away, but not you, dude. You're gonna fucking die.
No, yeah. I will say it made me laugh. It made me laugh pretty hysterically while watching it because it on screen it plays so kind of cheesy, but like a good cheesy. It's kind of
I liked it.
Yeah, so did I. I loved it, and I think the whole like the Tesla doesn't stop kind of
it keeps going,
which is like you said, referential to the original where the guy's driving the truck away. It's similar to that, but it's the modern equivalent of it, which I thought was funny.
It's smart, dude, and to kill and to make you think that they're both gonna get away, and they fucking don't. And the girl who had a traumatic experience is gonna have another one, witnessing her fucking sister get fucking beheaded by Leatherface.
This girl's gonna need a shitload of therapy.
Oh, shitload. Listen, man, that's another thing I've seen a lot of people shitting on, and I'm like, really, dude? That was like, besides the gore, that was honestly my second favorite thing about it was the fucking ending. Was fucking great, and it really shows you how brutal and fucking unforgiving this Leatherface is in this movie. Yeah. And I love that. And I thought it was the right ending for this movie. And I could have seen them maybe shooting two endings, where maybe one she does get away and Leatherface maybe swats at the car with the chainsaw and they keep going.
Typical ending.
And then maybe shot this and people were just like, you know what? You should kill the other sister because it would be way more of a shocking moment. And I think that's what people had. I think people were shocked by that and were kind of upset that they killed her, or they just thought it was stupid. But either way, that was the point. That's what I thought about the ending.
You're not. I mean, it's a horror movie, and it's always final girl. It's not final girls. It's not a plural. Only one's gonna make it for the most times. So I think it played really well, and I think also like. You get the imagery of Leatherface, wielding the chainsaw, spinning around in the circle with the severed head, and then that's it. That's where the title card pops up at the end. So you don't have a chance to sit and digest it. That's it. It's just over. I love that it ended there.
And it's like, it almost tells you the characters were dumb. Like, guys, you shot him once, and then you hit him in, like, the chin with the chainsaw. Yeah. He's alive. The audience knows that he's not dead. As soon as they did that, I said, Leatherface is not dead.
Yeah, of course.
That shot of him in, like, the pool of water, I was like, he's not dead.
Right. He's not sinking below the water. He's coming back.
100% he's coming back. And he definitely did. So I really dug that. And speaking of the final credits, dude, that last credit song is a heater, dude. The final credits, that song, dude, sounds like Survive. Fucking amazing.
It's a great track. And it but also like does not fit with the rest of the score for the movie in any way. It is totally off the wall. I mean, but even the end credits themselves, the way they're structured, looks different than the aesthetic of the movie. You know, they have those like, it's kind of like the close-ups of the tools and the chainsaw. Yeah, it doesn't really match the aesthetic of the movie, but I mean, that could go back to what you said about like reshoots and rewrites and stuff like that. Yeah. So, but I mean, that end credits track is
I think what they were, honestly, you know what I think they were trying to mimic? The bus scene, because the title text is blue, and the light, if I remember correctly, in that final,
it's like a very like a neon.
Blue. Yeah. It's like a blue light. So I'm guessing that's what they were trying to mimic with that scene. I love that song, dude. That song is not like the score is on Spotify and shit right now streaming, but that track's missing. I'm like, fuck, man, guys. Release that shit. I want to be able to put it in my playlist.
They're gonna make you pay for that.
I'll pay for it. I don't give a shit. Whatever. It's a good track, dude. I was listening to it. I was like, fuck, man. I wish the whole movie was scored like that final song. It would have been fucking amazing. I guess it would have felt too much like Halloween, like the whole synth dark wave type deal.
Yeah. Absolutely. Really they need to differentiate where they can.
They wanted to separate kind of from that franchise, but that was a fucking banging track, man.
Yeah. Then we get a stinger at the end of the credits.
Oh yes, we do. Let's talk about that.
The stinger of Leatherface slowly limping. You know, he's been through some shit in this movie. Yeah. He's got a little bit of a limp. He's an older man, and camera pulls back, and we see the house from the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre in the background, and that's where he's headed. Leatherface is headed home.
I wonder who's living in that house now.
Dude, not a lot of horror movies do stingers like that, you know?
Yeah.
I was trying to think of like recent memory.
Off the top of my head.
Done a stinger, and I can't really think of it. It's more superhero movies, action movies do like the tease a sequel kind of thing, and maybe there will be a sequel to this line of Texas Chainsaw movies. I'm not at all. But I just thought it was kind of jarring to have a stinger on a horror movie like that.
Yeah. I'm surprised the Halloween films didn't do that, because they were planning on making a trilogy of movies. You'd think they'd add little stingers at the very end, but to my recollection, they don't have any. So weird. But yeah, it was cool to see him walking back to the original farmhouse from the original film. That was really cool. Just I wonder if they were to make a sequel, they must have an idea of it taking place in the original house, maybe a new
what
group
it's gonna be,
teens or some shit, stumble across the house. Also, who lives in that house? Because I don't think any of his original family members would be alive right now.
No.
And it's not like Leatherface has some offspring, so maybe he does. Maybe he does. Son or daughter of Leatherface. Who the fuck knows? Maybe that's the next movie. Maybe he had a kid somewhere in that orphanage. Who the fuck knows? So, Chris, what are your final thoughts on Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022?
You know what? I enjoyed it. It's not a bad movie. It's not as bad of a movie as the internet would have you think that it is this past weekend and all the shit talking going on about it. Like you said earlier, you find something to enjoy in pretty much any of the movies in the series, right? And so do I. I mean, I think it could have benefited from another 10 to 15 minutes on the runtime to kind of flesh some stuff out. But also, I don't care that much that the stuff didn't get fleshed out. I enjoyed it. I loved the gore. I could see myself throwing it on, background noise every once in a while. Yeah. I'm not dying to watch it again, but I enjoyed it. I did.
Before I give my final thoughts, I do want to talk about an idea I had. So I had this idea while I was watching it. I was like, you know what would have been a cool idea for this film? If they did it. I think if they did this, I have two ideas technically, but if they did this, I think people would have appreciated the film more. So when I was done, after the credits rolled, I was like, you know what would have been cool? If the entire film plays out, the way it does, and they subtly reveal that it's in Texas, that there's this town, some shit's going on, there's some weird shit going on. There's a lady in an orphanage, blah, blah, blah. And the film ends with this character getting his hands on a chainsaw, using Melody's head that she cuts at the very end, he cuts off, and skins it, puts it on his face, and it's revealed at the very end that it's Leatherface. So the audience, obviously you have to title it something else, but the entire film, you don't realize it's a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie until the last 4 or 5 minutes. I get why they wanted to name it and not do that because for marketing reasons to make money.
Well, yeah, that's a cool idea though.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard to pull off, especially like you said, from a marketing standpoint. But I like that idea. I think has anything really like done that?
Split is the only movie I could think of that I didn't know was connected to Unbreakable.
But that's such a it's so small until it only comes into play at the very, very end that it's part of that same universe.
Yeah.
It would be a lot harder to pull it off across an entire movie. But I think with a couple of tweaks, I think your idea is real cool.
Yeah, like they could have easily done it.
You drop the Sally thing until
I would have dropped
the very end. The very end, and
that could have been the post-credit scene.
Yeah, somebody calls and they're like, "Oh, this is Sally," and that's it. Next movie, you bring that storyline to a head. I think it would have been cool. Yeah, because it could have been just a killer who's these people are in the wrong place at the wrong time kind of thing.
And that's how it plays out, dude. It almost feels like this movie was written, and that's the other idea I have, is just making it an original slasher film.
Right, a standalone kind of thing.
Besides her calling him Leatherface in that one scene and Sally existing in the film, it could be any slasher movie. Yeah, it's set in Texas, but
Texas is
it's such a small detail that you could have easily made this an original horror film, and I think people would have appreciated it more. Or the idea I just said, where my idea of just not telling anyone it's a Texas Chainsaw Leatherface movie until the very last shot where he would skin her face, and then you could do the whole dance and the reveal. People would be like, "Oh shit, that was fucking Leatherface the entire movie." And they could have easily not shown his face and stuff throughout the whole film. Because honestly, dude, he doesn't use the chainsaw till about 40 minutes. Into the film.
It's not even there. It's like hidden in the wall until he digs it up.
He kills the first few people, like he uses their own physical body to murder them, and he uses a piece of wood or whatever. He uses the sledgehammer, the cleaver. Nothing in the film leading up to the chainsaw and obviously the skin mask was relevant to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It could have easily been postponed or pushed back a little more into the film, and then the big reveal is that it's Leatherface the entire time. I don't know. I just thought that would have been a fucking sick idea. Someone hire me.
Did you like the movie though, as it stands?
What, me?
Yeah.
So here are my closing thoughts. This is kind of how I feel about the movie. It's not the greatest movie. But honestly, besides the original film, I don't think any of the sequels or remakes live up to it. That's just my own personal opinion. I thought it was a fun entry with some brutal kills, a fucked up ending, and an interesting depiction of Leatherface. I think it fits very well in the mess that is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre series. So that's kind of my stance on it, dude. Like, I think people are being way too fucking hard on this movie. It's like guys, have fun. Have fun watching this shit.
I tweeted, it's called Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Lower your expectations accordingly.
That's a good way of putting it, man. Lower your expectations, guys. It's just a horror movie.
In the summer of 1973, a few miles outside of Austin, Texas, 5 youths were attacked in a grisly and gruesome fashion by an unidentified madman. The shocking murders were committed with a variety of tools, including hammers, meat hooks, and most disturbingly, a chainsaw.
So that was Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022. Be sure to subscribe, follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Haunted Hangover, and be sure to check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/hauntedhangover31. And if you could rate and review us, that would be greatly appreciated. And remember, the best cure for a hangover is
more booze.
Catch you guys later.